We're seeing 2025 models hit dealership lots right now. That is extremely problematic when we have a number of unsold 2024 units and 2023 units still sitting on dealership lots. In order to live comfortably within the US today, you need to have a household income of $215,000 to $235,000. Depends on region a little bit. In 6 cities in particular, you need to make over $300,000 to live comfortably. Vehicles that were once priced with a $10,000 to $15,000 addendum or markup are now being priced $15,000 to $20,000 below MSRP. MSRPs across the board have gone up 42% since 2019. We've talked about that, but I want to put it in perspective for you. Annual average salaries for Americans has only gone up 34% since 2019. If you're looking for a good deal right now, head over to your local Nissan dealership. They are certainly in dire straits. How are they supposed to sell an example that's 2 years old at this point when 2025s are hitting? There's only one way. They have to slash the prices and take a loss on those vehicles. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So the car market is in shambles. We talked about that plenty. This last year, 2024, we've seen over 80 franchise dealers shut their doors permanently. We've seen hundreds of smaller independent used vehicle dealerships shut their doors. This is indicative of the terrible environment that we've seen throughout this last year. And while things are only getting worse as we teeter into 2025, the car market doesn't have a glimmer of light at the end of this tunnel. In today's video, I'm going to present a new grouping of stats and facts that really paint a picture of where we've been, where we're at now, and what lies ahead. So stick with me. So it's safe to say that during the pandemic, we as Americans unfortunately normalized high vehicle payments. I'm gonna give you an idea here. This GMC diesel pickup truck here, the Denali heavy duty, $94,000. This one here, $84,000. This one, $91,000. And well, the list goes on. Many of these trucks here between 80 and 100 grand. And I hate that that has become the new normal. I don't want to get you too excited, but we have $500 off this Buick Envista. Thank me later, guys. And to be fair, many of the dealerships that shut their doors is because of 2 reasons, clearly. Number one, location, of course. If these very remote dealerships, they can't bring in that walk-through traffic, they're not gonna be able to move that inventory. And those were a good chunk of the 80+ franchises that did shut their doors. But you can tell for about maybe 30 to 25 of them, they clearly were the dealerships that took advantage of their customers. They lost the loyal customers during the pandemic where they were charging greedy markups, $10,000, $15,000 or more over sticker price just to line their pockets. So you can tell that many of them actually lost their customers because of their tactics. And well, I don't feel bad for those guys at all. It's not too uncommon to get an auto loan the size of a mortgage payment, and these full-size SUVs are a prime example of that. We have here a Yukon XL Denali with a price tag just under $100,000. And I personally hate the fact that we are jamming these tiny displacement 4-cylinder turbocharged platforms into these mid-sized pickup trucks. Many of these GMC Canyon AT4s and AT4Xs are well over 50 grand. Some of them teetering over 60,000. Pretty insane. It's a bit of a shame because Toyota thought these new generation Toyota Land Cruisers were going to fly out the shelves and people were going to be wildly excited about them. But that has proven not to be the case. Here we have a lineup of them at my local dealership, and this is actually a small lineup by comparison to most dealerships. These are the lowest trim, 1958 edition, the most affordable trim, and even they are $58,000 to $60,000 each of them. The 4-cylinder turbocharged hybrid platform didn't really excite people, and rightfully so. Over half of the Nissan dealerships within the US are losing money month to month. The average price of a new vehicle right now is just over $48,000. That is indicative of the average monthly payment being paid by Americans across the US right now, which is just over $760 per month. That's the average monthly payment. 1 out of 6 auto loans out right now is over $1,000. We always have endless rows of brand new Toyota Tacomas and brand new Toyota Tundras at every dealership right now. That's because people don't want them. They don't want these over-complex, overpriced vehicles. The Tacomas, made entirely out of Mexico now, and while Toyota's actually going to be moving some of the Toyota Tundra production down to Mexico, where they pay 80% less in labor cost, and they still hike up the price over 25% more than the previous generation. This one here is an affordable example, if you could believe that, at $65,000. This Tundra SR5, kind of a bare bones base model example, and they still want that kind of price tag for it. The previous generation V8 top trim TRD Pro was $54,000 in 2021. Oh, how times have changed. But for that same exact reason, we are seeing many brand new Toyota Tacomas sit on dealership lots for over 150 to 200 days right now. That is insane. This is the first year of this new generation, the 4th generation Toyota Tacoma, and they're already sitting collecting dust like this. That is wild and unprecedented, uncharted territory for Toyota. The Tundra down there, they're seeing over 220, 250 days on lots on average at many parts within the US. That's absolutely absurd. And Toyota, they don't know how to deal with that. They're discounting the Toyota Tacoma $6,000 off of MSRP, but even then, that's insufficient, right? $6,000 off a vehicle that's overpriced by $15,000 doesn't really do much for the consumer. That Toyota nameplate has always meant something. It's always meant reliability, simplicity, and affordability. And well, all three of those things have gone out the window with the new generation Toyotas. Vehicle manufacturers' stock market pricing is going down and going down quick. Stellantis, they've seen over a 50% drop this year. Toyota in particular, they had a $250 stock price back in March, and now we're at $175. So even they are seeing quite the plunge. Their sales across the board dropped 21% over this last quarter. Much of that being because of the Toyota Tundra and Toyota Tacoma. People just are not buying these once very popular nameplates. And it isn't just with Toyota, right? Although the Tundra and Tacoma are prime examples of quality going down and price tags going up tremendously, this is across the board. We're tired of seeing these smaller displacement, turbocharged, more complex, overly complicated platforms being offered with higher price tags. Too much technology, people don't want that. They want a truck that's just functional. They want something that's affordable, and this just is not it. Let's face it, right? We have a large Toyota safety recall with the main crankshaft bearing failures within these due to debris being left within the engine during production of it. That Tacoma over there, well, a transmission is just a piece of crap. We have rows upon rows of unsold vehicles and many, many rows behind that. They just can't move this inventory, and that is why dealerships are shutting their doors. If they don't move the inventory, they're continuously paying a flooring cost to keep every single one of these vehicles, which is essentially a compounding interest rate, month to month, like a credit card, that they're paying for every single vehicle that goes unsold. And that begins to add up tremendously when we're talking this type of inventory, right? You know, a lot of people are quick to mention Trump's upcoming tariffs, right? Saying that these vehicles are only going to get more expensive for the consumer. I disagree. Although we might see it in some places, but across the board, vehicles like the Toyota Tacoma and Toyota Tundra here have been wildly overpriced already. They have already priced their target demographic out of the market. And well, look behind me here. Look at any Toyota dealership. They cannot sell them as is, even with huge discounts on them. $10,000 to $12,000 off a Toyota Tundra, and they still can't sell it. So you're going to try to tell me that they're going to hike it up even more with hopes of them actually selling? They will not. Let me make that very clear. They will not sell these for any more than what they're trying to get for them. They'll go bankrupt. So it's up to them. They could try, but they're just going to have to eat those costs. Vehicles like this 2013 Toyota Tacoma behind me are the reasons why Toyota has developed such an amazing reputation over the years, right? Very simplistic, extremely reliable, and I would argue very affordable too. You can easily pick one of these up back in 2013 between $22,000 and $35,000 based on the trim. You know, so that right there was a large reason why people would buy this, turn that key, start up this naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 engine, and just know that you can drive it for 250,000 miles plus with great peace of mind, unmatched peace of mind. But now, with those turbocharged platforms over there, the hybridized platforms are overly complex. They're not going to pop the hood and comfortably work on that thing. This right here, well, you could do that, and that's why they were so popular. Not anymore. I would argue that the last of the 5th generation Toyota 4Runner that you see behind me here was the last example of Toyota's core values, with them being reliable, simplistic, and affordable. That's no longer the case with these new platforms here. The 6th generation 2025 Toyota 4Runner that just came out, not only is it astronomically priced with the top trim levels being $67,000, this here you can get in the $40,000 range, and it had that trusty, naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 tied to the bulletproof 5-speed automatic transmission. And when you get inside, they're pretty simplistic, and that offers a good level of peace of mind. You don't need to be surrounded with a ton of technology, a ton of gizmos. People don't want that. They want peace of mind, and this offered it. Your used vehicle that you're going to offer for trade-in, well, you're going to get a terrible trade offer for it, because we have seen an 18% drop in wholesale values over the last quarter. That generally trickles behind 3 to 4 months, a whole quarter behind for the consumer, us, the buyers. So we're going to begin seeing that early 2025 if you haven't already noticed it, right? If you go try to get a trade-in offer or a buy offer on your vehicle, well, it's a lot less of what it used to be just a few months ago. And because we're seeing such huge discounts on the brand new Toyota Tundra of $10,000 to $12,000 off of MSRP and $6,000 to $8,000 off the Tacoma over there, These have terrible resale value now, and that is not normal for Toyota, right? We're used to seeing great resale, great residual value, but because they're having to slash prices of new examples, well, the used ones are losing 25 to 35% of their value within the first 6 months of ownership. Pretty sad. So what you see here is becoming a very common sight too. So in the window of each of these vehicles, it says public notice. This vehicle will go to auction within 7 days. We are now offering it to the public at wholesale cost. Well, a couple of these examples doesn't shock me that they didn't sell, but we're starting to see a lot more of that, right? Because people are just not buying it. Doesn't shock me too much to see one of those placards in the window of this Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Although they look great, Jeep at large has struggled tremendously over the last couple of years here. Their inventory levels are through the roof, largely because they have priced their MSRPs up 54% since 2019, whereas the average across all other vehicle manufacturers is 42%. Subaru, with actually being the least, had 28% price increase since 2019. Yeah, look at this site here. So there is an endless line of Ford F-150s, unsold F-150s that keep going and going and going. And well, same goes for Mustang Mach-E's over here, and then into Ford Explorers down there. So a whole lineup of them, and it actually goes down well beyond. So this is not an uncommon sight for a Ford dealership, not just my local dealership. This is common across the US. Really, just a year and a half, 2 years ago, you'd have to arm wrestle a guy to try to get a nicely well-spec'd F-150 available to you just to buy at MSRP or barely off MSRP. Now, these discounted several $1,000s off with incentivized interest rates, and even still, America's #1 top-selling pickup truck is not selling. How about that? So we're seeing 2025 models hit dealership lots right now. That is extremely problematic when we have a number of unsold 2024 units and 2023 units still sitting on dealership lots. How are they supposed to sell an example that's 2 years old at this point when 2025s are hitting? There's only one way. They have to slash the prices and take a loss on those vehicles. The dealerships that are willing to take a loss on vehicles, cut their losses early, those are the dealerships that are going to succeed and potentially build back some trust and loyalty from their customers. But if they continue to sit and wait out for a customer to come overpay for it, well, they might just be heading toward bankruptcy. And I don't think the government's going to bail them out this time around. We've now gotten to the point where dealerships can't even hide their inventory. Oftentimes, during the last couple of years, dealerships would hide their additional inventory in their back lots or their secondary or even third lots. Just hide it out of view to make the consumer believe that, well, they only had what was out front. And that led to them being able to really take advantage of the consumer even more and maximize their profits on their inventory shown out front. But now, well, you see what you see behind me. So much inventory that it's just in plain daylight. They can't even hide it anymore. We are now seeing over 2.9 million new vehicles available within the US. That is up 120% over 2.5 years ago. That is absolutely insane. MSRPs across the board have gone up 42% since 2019. We've talked about that, but I want to put it in perspective for you. Annual average salaries for Americans has only gone up 34% since 2019. So already a little bit of a deviation there. But when you combine that with the cost of rent, the cost of mortgage, the cost of groceries, the cost of insurance, you name it, everything has just gone through the roof. And Americans are having a really hard time keeping up with it. And because of that, you're seeing what you see behind me. Just dealerships stacking up that inventory, unsold inventory. They just can't cut it loose because Americans can't afford to buy it right now. One of the most alarming bits of it all is vehicles that were once priced with a $10,000 to $15,000 addendum or markup are now being priced $15,000 to $20,000 below MSRP. This Ford Bronco here, the Bronco Raptor in particular, is seeing $15,000 to $20,000 discounts. I follow a number of Facebook pages. That truly is the discount that you get on this. And this used to be, not that long ago, I'm talking a year ago, $10,000 over MSRP. Crazy how times have changed, huh? To be fair, even Ford realized that they wildly overpriced the Bronco Raptor here, and they even dialed back the MSRPs a little bit here in 2024, but nowhere near enough. That's why we're seeing the $15,000 to $20,000 discounts on them. This one here, you're not going to believe it, but $98,000 is the MSRP on it. Kind of insane, huh? One small silver lining of it all is you can expect tremendous discounts on used vehicles right now. You remember during the pandemic where a lightly used example would cost about the same as a brand new example due to supply constraints, but no longer are those the days. They can't sell new inventory with huge discounts. That means the used examples need to have even larger savings in order to move it. So the days of being able to buy used and save a lot have come back. So there's a small silver lining. A recent report just indicated that in order to live comfortably within the US today, you need to have a household income of $215,000 to $235,000. Depends on region a little bit. In 6 cities in particular, you need to make over $300,000 to live comfortably in 6 different cities within the US. That's absolutely absurd. That's with 2 adults, 2 kiddos. That is our new normal. And that is absolutely sickening to say out loud. But because of that, that's why we see what you see behind me. So many unsold vehicles because people can't keep up with their other bills. And well, if you want to prove to your family that you're having an identity crisis, you can pick up this F-250 diesel here with the Black Widow package. Just $92,000. You know, we're even seeing savings on vehicles that were very, very desirable for the longest time. This Ford F-150 Raptor here, you can find these now between $38,000 and $55,000 depending on the mileage. That a couple years ago was not the case. You were easily spending high 60s for these things, even used. All right, guys, we'll wrap up the video there. As always, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune in these videos. It really means a lot. You know, this is in alignment with my personal passion of following vehicle manufacturers, the decisions they make, and watching the ripple effect of how they ultimately affect us, the consumer. I have a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. It really is what my passion revolves around. So I hope some of you appreciate these kind of chats. As always, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support does mean a lot, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.